Welcome, friends. This is Dr. Donna Marie Hunter, and this is Rise and Repair Repartee. Today, I'm welcoming my special guest, Dr. Tony Alvarado. Dr. Tony, say hello to us so I can give you a quick
Hello.
introduction.
Hello. It's good to be here.
You are so wonderful, and I already told you this, but you always look amazing. Always. Okay, before I even get started on who you are and what you do as far as our self-care, because that's the title of our segment today, Self-Care, A Saving Grace. I saw a picture of you on Instagram this week, and I am just so rocking, awesomely, not jealous, okay? I'm envious in a good way.
Okay.
Dr. Tony, you look amazing. You look just amazing. You are the epitome of what you say. Self-care. It's inside and out. It's all over you. It is.
Oh, wow. I work hard at it. I work very hard.
Okay, you need to tell us about that because that's the part of the self-care that is intentional and it's working hard, isn't it? It is.
Yes, it is intentional.
Okay, so with that in mind, just quickly, would you do your own introduction? Because I am already biased. I love you. You're an author, a pastor, teacher, and just a wonderful woman of God. I just want you to give us a quick bio of who you are and what you do.
Well, I am Dr. Tony Alvarado. I hail from the city of Chicago, but I live in Atlanta, Georgia, in particular in Conyers, Georgia. And yes, so I am a wife, a mother, a pastor. I am the co-pastor of Grace Church International, where I pastor with my husband, Bishop Jonathan Alvarado. We have 3 young adult children: Jonathan II, Joshua, and Ariel Alvarado, and we have a wonderful daughter-in-love, Jasmine Renee Alvarado. And so, and so I'm also the founder and executive director of My Sister's Keeper Foundation for Women. I am the president of Targeted Living Coaching and Consulting. And my newest baby or passion is the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast and the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Retreat. I'm the retreat leader for that retreat and the host of that podcast. And that's my newest venture. And I have some other things in the queue that I'm working on. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. I teach adjunct for Georgia Piedmont Technical College. I've taught in several seminaries and Bible colleges and universities as adjunct over the years. So teaching is one of my passions and one of my gifts. And so I do a little work there as well. And I'm just glad to be able to be here with you today, Dr. Donna.
Aww. I told you, you do it all. And you look good doing it. I'm just like, okay, not envious. I truly want to have more of you in my life. In that sense, what you're doing to really make sure that you are taking care of all of you. So would you take us a little bit through your journey? Because I think that's where we are going to have to start before we roll into, what we can do to have that self-care and know that that's the saving grace, the actual caring for ourselves, especially during COVID, especially during the pandemic. I want us to know what things we can do, what can we do to care for ourselves and thus then able to care for others. So tell us about your journey. Where did you start?
Well, I've been on this journey for 20 years. I started this journey, this self-care journey 20 years ago. On my 37th birthday, I had a very awakening experience, if you will. So my husband asked me, what did I want for my birthday? And I replied, a treadmill. And the reason I asked for a treadmill for my 37th birthday was because I was literally at a place, Dr. Donna, where my life was spiraling out of control.
What do you mean by that? Unpack that. What do you mean spiraling out of control? What does that mean?
Well, okay, so what I mean by that is I had a lot going on, and I was taking care of everything and everybody but me. Okay, so my daughter was born. I had Ariel when I was 36, so she probably was coming up on a year old. Yes, she was, yeah, because in May of that year, I turned 37. Ariel would be a year, turning a year that September.
Okay.
We had three, at that time, I turned up 15 months. So we had three children under the age of 3. We had ministry. Our church at that time, we were doing 5 worship services a Sunday. We were on television, so we were recording television broadcasts 2 or 3 days a week. We were in seminary, and we were going to school in Cleveland, Tennessee, and we were going back and forth up and down the highway a couple of days a week going to school. So I was in school full time, but pastoring full time, small children, and my itinerant ministry was just getting started back then, where I was really starting to travel in ministry and preaching and teaching in ministry, and my plate was extremely full. And like I said, I was used to this fast pace. We were on this my life was just going at a fast pace, and I was taking care of everything and everybody, and I was not taking care of me.
Wow. Mm.
During that time that my my I would have heart.
Oh,
I
wow.
was my thoughts were racing, and I could not really thoughts. And so when I went to the doctor, started it was during testing me for grade, and it's on by stress. And so I was living a highly stressed life. My lifestyle was high stress. Pastoring is a stressful career anyway. It's
Right.
one of the most stressful professions.
Yeah.
I think we're up there with police officers, and so I mean it's a very stressful profession, and especially when you're not taking care of yourself. And so that's not taking care of me. Dr. Donna, I went into when I just didn't feel my best. I didn't feel like me.
Yeah.
And I was going through the motions, but I was very, very unhealthy internally. And I remember one day lying across my bed, and I really in prayer, and I was like, God, what's wrong with me? And I heard the Lord say, for where I am taking you, where I want to take you in ministry, in life, in business, you know, you're not going to make it if you don't stop and take care of you. I literally saw my funeral. I literally myself being here. And then I thought, I didn't want nobody else marrying my husband. I didn't want nobody else raising my children.
Kids. I know
I
that's
was
right.
like, no, I will live and not die and declare the works of the Lord. And so, I mean, yeah, so it was a real awakening time for me. And I started small, started where I was at the time. I asked for a treadmill. I started with that. And then I started going to the YMCA in my neighborhood. I got a membership to the Y, and then they gave you like a little fitness trainer there. And so I started doing that. But then I realized that I started to plateau a little bit after doing that. And I realized that it had to be a holistic approach.
See, that's what I was getting ready to ask you. It was like, I hear the physical because we got to do something.
Yeah.
But I know self-care is more than that. There's more than that. But yeah, okay, keep going. I want to hear the good part.
It's so much more than just the physical. A lot of times when people start on this journey, and it's an easy place to start because it's really the thing that's glaring the most times.
Right. No, it is. It's the physical. Absolutely.
And so usually we start there, but it was later on the journey that I started to understand what self-care really is and what it's all about. And it is not just working out. It's
Right.
not just eating right. I tell people all the time, self-care is everything from eating right to being honest in your spouse
Mm.
and everything in between. It's mental wellness. It's physical wellness. It's spiritual wellness. It's financial wellness. It's being having peace with yourself and with others. It's not internalizing other people's problems. It's delegating. It's letting other people be them and be okay with it.
Oh,
It's
that's
saying
right.
no and meaning no and not feeling guilty when you say no and not having to explain why you need to say no.
No.
It's a very holistic approach. It's eating right. It's eating what works for my body. It's denying myself of things that are unhealthy for me. It's having peace in my environment, setting up my environment so that I can have peace and getting rid of anything in my environment that brings me confusion and robs me of my peace.
Peace. Ooh, okay, so here we are, because that's where I'm at. In other words, when we came home for this, when everybody had to stop, I stopped traveling, we stopped doing all these things. Immediately, you're home. So I'm home, but what I found was that I had stuff. I mean, I would come home, maybe pack, unpack, do the next thing, but I was leaving stuff in my environment that was making me, So finally, a girlfriend said to me, she started cleaning her house. And I thought, I mean, I don't live in a dirty home, don't get me wrong, but I just had clutter. It was clutter. And the clutter was causing me to not
Yeah,
have peace.
yeah,
So I get that part too, that you're saying is just the entire environment has to be conducive to your whole mental and emotional health and well-being. Books and stacks.
yes, exactly.
I still have stacks and stacks of articles from my dissertation because I was like, I just can't let that go. And things that I wrote, and I said, I can't let that go. And a girlfriend said, just scan all that stuff, put it on the disk and throw it in the trash. I
Yes,
gotta let it go. The
yes,
environment has got to be more conducive because my heart is like going, it's too much stuff in here for me to be in this house,
yes,
and to try to get something done. Oh my
exactly.
gosh. Okay,
It's so,
I see like
so
you're doing a
important.
whole lot. See, Pastor, this is the thing, Dr. Tony. You're still doing quite a bit. You're still doing
Okay.
quite a bit, but something is shifted because I can see the joy. I can see the light. I can see the glow in you. I'm telling you, that picture on Instagram was like, doggone. You look younger now. And you just look so good. And if you don't follow her on Instagram, you should, because she's always got something positive and good to say. But you look the epitome of health and well-being. You look like it. You look like it. So something is working. Tell us what that looks like, because I'm looking at your book. Okay, I'm reading the book. I read the book. I love this book. A Journey, Harmonizing Your Life, A Journey Towards Self-Care, right? So I'm
Uh-huh.
in the book and I'm looking at, okay, I'm on page 35.
Okay.
You started talking about my self-care value, my
Uh-huh.
self-care practice. Okay, help us out. See, the saving grace is you got to help us understand where the correlation is. The
Between our
practice,
values and self-care.
yeah,
Okay.
help me out with that. With what you just said, all of the things
Okay.
that you just talked about, help me make the correlation.
Okay, so values serve as the compass or the guide for the way we live our lives, right? It's a guiding principle. It dictates our actions. It dictates what we do, and it dictates what we don't do. It
Okay.
dictates what I say yes to and what I say no to, what I might say maybe to. So it's important that we're in touch with our value system, and oftentimes we're not clear about our values. What I mean by that is, if I value peace,
Okay.
then I do the things that bring peace. If I value health and wellness, then I do the things that makes for health and wellness. I can tell what you value by two things: what you spend your time on and what you spend your money on.
Okay.
Money and time are clear indicators of our values, because that's what we have, right?
Okay.
We spend money based on what we value,
Right.
and we spend our time based on what we value.
It's
So
true.
when people tell me I don't have time to work out, that tells me they don't value health. They don't value themselves. When people say they don't have time, they don't have money to eat healthy, that tells me that they don't value feeling good and being well and healthy. And so our values, what we value, will dictate what we do, our actions. So it's not the other. So a lot of times, in the values piece comes from some place internal, right? So that a lot of times what we're looking at is what we do on the outward. Do I work out? Where do I, what do I wear? What do I eat? Those things are more of an outward thing. They're the outworking, if you will, of what I value. But my values are an internal rudder. That's the thing that guides the ship. The thing that says I'm going in this direction, or I'm going in this direction, or I'm being still. So values is something very deep and internal. And unless we take time to really unearth what our value system is and what we value, then we'll continue to just spin and we won't really make any progress.
Okay, so if I value peace, then I'm going to have an associating action accordingly. So
yeah, so I value peace. I value peace. Okay. So one of the things I do is I limit the amount of time I spend in environments that disrupt my peace.
Give now, there's
some things do not, some things we can't help, right? So there's some things you have to be around, you working or whatever in your office or whatever. But you have a choice on how much time you spend on social media. You have a choice on how much time you watch and take in the news. I mean, we're in this pandemic, and at first, when the pandemic first hit, I was glued to the television all day long, watching the news and trying to get updates. And so now I still watch the news, but I limit my time with it so that I'm not just constantly taking in bad news and bad reports. Because what happens is fear sets in, worry sets in, anxiety sets in, and those are the things that rob me of my peace. So I limit my time around things and people that disrupt my peace. And then I do things that enhance my peace, like meditation, like yoga, like aromatherapy, a nice warm cup of tea. I do things like spending time with my husband or my children, things that bring me joy, things that bring me peace. I may go and sit and talk to my mom or whatever, something, or walking in the park, something that's going to enhance and facilitate peace in my life, my prayer time, my Bible reading, my worship time, the music that I listen to, things like that help to facilitate and aid peace in my life.
I love it. Okay, now the first thing I thought about what you said was I have to limit. I was doing the same thing, Pastor Tony. I was doing the same thing. We were glued to the television watching the numbers and watching the numbers, and every day, and then you just got caught up in it, and all of a sudden you're like, this is not helpful. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't check the news. I check it, but I'm not watching it. I check it because I want to be informed.
We need to be informed. Right. We need to know what's going on. But the truth of the matter is, Dr. Donna, we're listening to the same, really almost the same stuff every day.
Yes.
It's not like it's much has changed. There's some things that have changed, but not much has changed. We still don't have a vaccine. We still don't know how long we're going to be here. So, I mean, you know what I mean? So yes, so some of the information that we got in March is still the same information in August.
You're
so
right.
I don't have to sit and listen to that same information 24/7.
Yes, or just have that noise running in the house.
That internal, yes, that noise and that thing that robs us of our peace. So I've had to learn how to pull away, especially because we're home. We're in this pandemic. We're not traveling like we were, or we're not out and about like we were. We're home. And so I needed to make sure that I set up my environment. I remember when this first started, the room that I'm in right now is my prayer room, right? And I use it now also for my podcast. I do like what I'm doing with you. I'm usually when I'm on Zoom, I'm in here. But this room is off of my master bedroom in my home. And I dedicated this room as a prayer room years ago. But let me tell you what happened. I got so busy before this pandemic that I was rarely in this room. I mean, that doesn't mean I wasn't praying. I was praying. I was praying in the car. I would get up in the morning, pray, and get going. But this pandemic, God was like, this is a global shutdown. Everybody sit down. And I got reacquainted with this space. Like you were talking about clutter. I had things were in here that just, and I really literally, I moved the furniture around. I got rid of some things. And now I only allow certain things in this room, things that facilitate my spiritual growth, things that facilitate my peace, my development, anything like that. But I'm not allowing this room to become what it was before this pandemic. And I've been very intentional to make sure that I spend time in this room and that I spend time in this place. Now there are other places in my home that do the that I enjoy spending time within as well. But I'm just saying, just for an example of your space and creating an environment whereby you can engage and facilitate peace in your life and as it relates to self-care.
So I love it. So you've told us about the physical. You said the environment. That's also the physical environment. And then will you tell us a little bit about, and I know you said, with peace, but can you talk a little bit about the self-care of emotional? So the mental health picture.
Oh, yes.
Is,
it's
I'm telling
very
you,
important.
Oh my goodness. And
it's very important.
The numbers rise in the number of folks needing help, and our children, we even see a rise in abuse and neglect for our kids. Tell us about how we can be proactive and being self-care so that we don't go over the edge, that anxiety doesn't take over, the stress or what have you.
Well, I think the first thing I want to say about that is, number one, we got to take away the stigma around mental health. We have culturally, as an African-American people, we have not been as open to therapists and psychiatrists and mental health treatment. And many of us need mental health treatment, or we need, I believe everybody should have a therapist. I have a therapist. And I started seeing a therapist before the pandemic. So I already had a therapist on board. And even now we've had telemed sessions. I've been able to have sessions with my therapist even during the pandemic, even though I'm not able to go to her office. We've been doing it via WebEx or whatever the medium is that she's using. And so, so mental health is a major part of self-care. How we are, remember there are 6 areas of wellness that we should always be concerned about. When you look at the wellness wheel, there's 6 areas. There's physical, there's the mental, emotional, there is physical, there is financial, there is spiritual, and there is occupational.
Got it.
Okay? Occupational wellness. So that means I should be concerned about where I am physically, how am I mentally,
right?
How am I emotionally, how am mental and emotional kind of go together. How am I socially? What is my social well-being like? How am I connecting with others? What are my relationships like? Spiritual, whatever I'm a Christian. So for me, it's being a Christian, it's being in connection with God, the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, and a faith community, my church, my local church, and other Christians. Okay, so having that in place, and occupational wellness. How do you feel about your life as it relates to your occupation and your purpose and your destiny? Are you feel like you're in a deadbeat job, or you're working a job that you hate, or anything? People, those kind of things rob us of our peace, and they lead to stress. Yes. They lead to, if you're not happy on your job, if you feel like you're underpaid or you're undervalued or whatever, those things lead to stress. They can lead to anxiety, worry, frustration, depression, all those kind of things. And so occupational wellness, a lot of times we don't talk about that, but that's a major part of wellness as well. So wellness from a self-care, from a holistic approach, will look at all these aspects of wellness. So mental health is definitely high, especially now during this COVID season, while we're separated, while we are social distancing, people are missing loved ones. There's a real letdown that
Yes.
we have experienced. People have had to cancel graduations and weddings and conferences and things that mean a lot to us, with a lot of sentimental value, family gatherings, funerals. People have had to bury loved ones via Zoom and
Yes.
things of that nature. And so
Devastating.
the weight of that, the mental toll of that is, we haven't even begun to see the impact that is having. I believe on the other side of this pandemic, we're going to really, really see the damage that has been done to people mentally. It's going to take years of work to get people back healthy mentally, on the other side of this pandemic.
See, that's what I believe. I really believe that we're going to see that on the other side. We're going to see it.
Oh
Which is
yeah,
why,
we're seeing
honestly,
it now, but we're really going to see it.
yeah, I
So
really thought,
I suggest that if you don't have a therapist, that you get one. Go online,
get
research,
somebody.
get someone. On my podcast, if you go to my podcast, my therapist is there. Dr. Anastasia Alvarado, who is my sister-in-law. We did a session early on in the pandemic on mental health and in this pandemic. And she is a licensed medical doctor. She is a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a pastor.
Okay.
I'm a coach. I'm a wellness coach. But I'm not a medical. So you need a doctor, psychiatrist, or a licensed clinical therapist.
So no, I get it. But I say this too, Dr. Tony, you also, with your coaching and the things that you do, I think that's the reason why folks keep coming to you and we keep looking to you. Because now, one, I want everyone that needs therapy or what have you, but the other portions that you have in there, you have the social aspect, you have people in your life that are giving and pouring into you. And then also you said the financial aspect. If you could tell us, I would say a few takeaways, things that we can do right now during the pandemic. One, I heard you clean up the environment. The other thing, I watched you because I'm watching you, I'm following you, I'm a fan. And I'm like, what is she doing out in the wilderness? What are you doing out there? And I'm like, she got boots and a stick, and you're in the wilderness and doing things that I'm like, did she always do this? I thought you worked out in your garage or with a trainer. You're doing things that I'm like, where's all this coming from? So you have feng shuied this self-care thing into something else. So if you could, one, of course, you've already said, if you need help in coaching, counseling, get it. There's nothing wrong with it. And in the African-American community, you're right, there is a stigma. You also said clean up your environment if it's making you anxious, if it's giving you, lacking peace. And, I'm with you. This room that I'm in is the same thing. Room that I had not used. I've been here for years. I never used this room. Never used I have a balcony. Never used it. Never used it. So here we are. Here we are. And
here's the shame with that, Dr. Donna. We pay these mortgages and we buy these beautiful homes that we never
get on a plane. Get on a plane. I gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing? And then I came here, I'm like, oh, it's kind of nice. My girlfriends came over and they said, I don't ever remember this room. I said, because I have so much stuff in here that I couldn't see straight. And I'm just holding on to stuff. I can't tell you. So you said environment, you said physically, getting up and getting going, doing something. And I would love for you that. And then you said coaching and counseling if you need it. The other thing you said is purpose. That's that sweet spot. That's that occupational, that career portion. What are you doing to feed that, to come into your purpose? And now what are you waiting for? What are you doing that would help you to propel into this next season? That's what I think I heard you say.
Yes.
And if there's another one, you said financial, and I can't remember the other one because it's in the book. But what was the other one? And what can we do in the area of finances that you would say to keep the balance of the wheel?
Okay, so financial, let me go to that one real quick. So for me, it was amazing. Right before this pandemic, our church went on a financial fast, right? And what that is if you've never done one, it's where we don't enter into any new financial contracts, and we eat at home. We don't go out to restaurants. We don't shop, any of that. We only buy what's necessary. And so we did that. And then on top of that, we did the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University.
Oh, okay.
So, and this was at the top of the year. This was before we got into the pandemic. So we were already in that mindset as a congregation. So when the pandemic hit, we were already on a financial fast. So eating at home, we were already doing, right? So when they said we couldn't go to restaurants, okay, well, we weren't doing that anyway. Because we were right, because we were cooking and we were eating at home. So, and we have testimonies of members in our church, and I myself, my husband and I myself, we have paid off more debt in this pandemic than we were doing last year and the year before while we were on the road. Now, Dr. Donna, you know, my husband and I are pastors and we're itinerant preachers. Our main source of income, of course, is our salaries that we receive from our church, right? But in addition to that, we're on the road, we're traveling, we're speaking in conferences, and with those come with honorariums, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
that's a portion of our income. It's not the bulk of our income, but it's a nice portion of our income, especially for the two of us together, right? So all of that, I remember when I came into 2020, my entire calendar was full of speaking engagements. And then all of a sudden, with all of this, I literally watched my calendar dry up. And I'm gonna tell you, some depression almost set in behind that. You know, to continue to get text messages and emails and phone calls, we gotta cancel. And every time I would hear the word cancel, I almost internalized that. And then one day God said to me, those events are canceled, but your calling is not canceled.
I love it.
You get me?
Yes, because them flights, when they started, the airlines had to cancel my flight because I was like, oh no, I can probably.
You understand? I was holding on for dear life. I was holding on.
Finally, American just said, we are canceling this flight. And I thought, that's 3 in a row. They canceled my flights because I wouldn't, and that's how sad it was for me.
Yeah.
I believe that I'm not
because we were holding on. We were holding our hope. Oh, this is only going to be, because at first they told us we only going to shelter in for 2 weeks. You know, then it went from 2 weeks here in Georgia, from 2 weeks. Then it went to 30 days. Then they said we're going to be in it 6 weeks. Next thing you know, here we are. It's August and we're still here, right? And there's a whole bunch of reasons behind that, but we're not even going to get into. Right, we're not going there. But the thing I'm going to say about that is, because we were already disciplining ourselves financially. Okay. My husband, we were just talking about this week. We looked at each other and we were like, our income has been impacted by COVID. Yes. Because we're not on the road, we're not receiving honorariums, and we're not speaking and preaching in conferences. But yet we have, first of all, we have everything we need. We're not missing anything. Yes. We have everything we need. Nothing has gone unpaid. You get what I'm saying? Yes. We've paid off debt because we're not traveling. There's money that we were spending traveling that we're not having to spend now. We're not spending as much money on dry cleaning. We're not spending as much money on eating out in restaurants and getting our hair cut and getting our hair done. And you see, I just did a whole reorientation of my hair because I was used to going to, you know what I'm saying, getting a perm and all the other stuff. And so nails, I got rid of all that. And I'm fine. And I'm good. I'm all right with it. And so because of that, the money that I was spending on some of those things, I was able to attack some more debt with it. We had already begun some debt reduction, but this even facilitated more of that. And you know, when your finances are not right, it messes with you. It's stressful. It can be stressful on your relationship if you're married, or it can be stressful on your health because you're worried. You know what I'm saying? You're fearful, you're fretting, you're worried about the future and all those kind of things. And so I say, get your financial life in order. That's a part of self-care, having your financial business in order. So you're not afraid to answer the telephone, or you're hiding from
open the mail.
Or the mail. Or
doorbell ring and you go
been there, done that. Where I was afraid to look at the mail, didn't even want to go to the mailbox. Just going to the mailbox got
anxiety.
Anxiety. And so now we live in peace, and peace is freedom from agitating passion and moral conflict. That's what peace
Wow.
is.
Wow.
Freedom from agitating passion and moral conflict. And so being able to go to bed at night, not worried
Yeah.
about what's going to happen tomorrow,
Mhm.
not that everything is
Perfect. Yep.
perfect or like I couldn't use more money. I just told you my income's been
I know,
impacted. Yes,
but you're not gonna
but
stress about it. Not
not
worry about
stressed at all.
it.
And then it's given me an opportunity to tap into some creativity this
Yes.
season. When that occupational wellness, what I mean by that is there are things that when I said God told me, I didn't, those events were canceled, but your calling is
Calling is not.
not.
I love that.
And
I
so
love
I did a pivot, and
that. Yes.
I started embracing technology. I
Yes.
started embracing more. I started, okay, well, I can't go, but
What can I do? Right.
I got a computer, I bought a webcam, we bought a few lights. We turned our house literally. We have at least two or three studios in our home right now. I got a studio, my husband has a studio, my son and daughter. So we're doing what we have to do.
Do.
My daughter's
Right.
preparing for her auditions for my daughter's preparing her auditions for grad school. She's a music major, conducting, and she has to do conducting videos. She goes to Spelman, and they're not able to go back on campus this
She's got to
fall.
figure it out.
But she still has to get her videos in
Yes.
to grad school so she can get accepted somewhere. So we met the other day. We said, okay, we're going to move the couch, move some chairs, and we're going to turn this room into a studio for Ariel to practice.
I'm with
And
you.
when her classmates come back, we're going to let 3 or 4 of them come over here. We're going to space them out. We're going to
That's
do
right.
it. I'm going to fix them a pot of spaghetti, and they're going to learn her music. We're going to record it, and so she can send it all to grad school. Life does not have to stop because we're in a pandemic.
Yeah. Self-care means I got to learn how to reposition. I got to
pivot.
I got to do something different.
I got to know how to go in a different direction.
So you are singing my song, Pastor.
Same skills, but I'm doing it a different way. You said you saw me out in the wilderness. Well, let me say I wasn't in the wilderness. Okay.
Well, that's what it looked like. It looked like you was up in the wilderness.
Like,
what's she doing?
One of the things
you went from the garage or the gym to out in the wilderness in your backyard, and I know that. Okay, so we got 1 minute left, and I really want to make sure we get folks that if they want to get in contact with you, and I know you have to go to her Instagram to see her in the wilderness. That's what I called it. I want
the trails. I've been on walking trails around Georgia.
and walking trails that you probably never saw before until
no, but because of this pandemic, I've been able to take advantage of that and see some new things.
Oh, see, that's part
and
of
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Explore your area. I'm so busy flying flying over Georgia and missing the beautiful gems that are right here in my state. Oh. And so I just started getting out and exploring the different parks and waterfalls and trails in Georgia. So I bought some hiking boots and one of my members perched for my birthday gave me some hiking sticks. So now I hike.
That's a serious pivot. That's a reposition. And you also are getting outside some fresh air and seeing some beautiful things that you flew over, and now you actually land on the ground looking at them firsthand. And there's a difference. I know you do.
It's a major difference.
Very clear when you were right there. Okay, Dr. Tony, you got to give us your website. Folks want to follow. They want to get the book. They want to know how to harmonize their life. And I wish we had more time, because I was thinking about harmonize is a different word. It's a different word, but I know we're at the end. So we're at the end.
But I'll come back. You know what? There's more time. We'll talk another time about that.
Okay, good. Okay, so you promising, and I have folks on here that can actually.
I'll come back, and we'll talk about why I chose the word harmony over balance.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, but that's our next one. We're going to talk really about the book, Harmonizing Your Life. Okay. Tony, how can folks who want to know more about self-care, also about My Sister's Keeper, how can they get in touch with you?
Okay, well, everything about me you can find out on my website, drtonyalvarado.com. Dr. Tony, all lowercase, Tony with an I, Toni, Alvarado.com. If you
Okay.
go there, there's a link to my church, Grace Church International. There's a link to My Sister's Keeper Foundation for women, and you can go there and learn about the foundation that we started in 2004. We run a leadership and life coaching program for women. Out of that foundation, we have scholarship programs that we give money away to women to going back to school and things of that nature. We work with young girls in the school system and the college campuses through My Sister's Keeper.
Okay, so drtonyalvarado.com
Yes.
is your website, and they can get in touch with you there. Well, Dr.
They can get in
Tony,
touch. There's a contact. There's a contact form there that they want to email me, and then also you can sign up for my newsletter on the homepage. You can subscribe to the podcast on my website, and you can join the self-care network that Dr. Donna is a member of.
Absolutely.
She's part of my self-care network, so you can join the women's self-care network there on my website as well.
Yes,
it's right there on the
exactly
homepage.
why you're here, because I'm like, I'm in. I'm convinced. I'm looking at you, and I'm like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. I'm looking at you, and I see an example of a woman that I can say, I want to be like that when I grow up. So that's why I'm following you. That's why you're on here, and that's why you're coming back. You all heard her say it. It's drtonyalvarado.com, and you guys can go to her website and get more information. We're also putting it in the comments. I know that folks are doing that as well. And I want to say thank you, Dr. Tony. You have just been a wonderful, wonderful guest. I just feel like it just wasn't enough time, but that's okay. We're coming back. And a brief thank you and a sincere thank you to our sponsors, Allie's Allies, who has sponsored this event today. And for those of you that need and would like more information about Allie's Allies, you can go to their website, and that's www.alliesallies.org. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Tony, for being on Rise and Repair Repartee. We appreciate you. We want to do better so that we can understand and look just like you when we grow up. Thank you so much. We love you.
I just want to make one edit.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't want to look and sound like Dr. Tony. You want to look and sound like your best you.
Okay.
That's what you want to do.
Okay, but you're a good example to me of what that could look like.
Your self-care is about you. And so you want to be your best you. And that's what the Self-Care Network is all about, helping you be your best you.
Okay, I'll take that, because you're right. I want to be me. But I will say this, and I'm going to say it again, but you are a wonderful example of what
Thank
it
you.
look like.
I appreciate that.
I think you are absolutely beautiful, inside and out, and the real deal. I love it. And I love it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for joining us. Please contact Dr. Tony or Allie's Allies or me, Dr. Donna Marie Hunter. We'll see you next week. Thank you, friends.